You're a scary Damon! You're a scary Damon! Cal, no! Hi everyone, Bethany Goldtano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Toro Y Moi LP. What for? Toro Y Moi is the musical pseudonym of producer, multi-instrumentalist, singer-songwriter Chaz Bundick, who now has multiple albums under his belt with this name. At one point, Chaz was actually one of the bigger names to come out of chillwave, the sweet, psychedelic, and short-lived micro-genre that was kind of a cross between dream pop and electronic music. Much of it was sample-based. However, Chaz quickly moved beyond the sound of his breakout album, Causers of This, and into the realms of synth-funk and lo-fi indie and psychedelic pop on his album Underneath the Pine, which features some of his best singles. The song New Beat is easily my favorite off that LP. However, Chaz followed this kind of decent and likable album up with an almost excruciating one, Anything in Return. On this LP, Chaz was unearthing some of the most homely and unlikable elements of 80s pop music and then putting them on display, as if anyone needs to relive the sound of the new kids on the block. Each Toro Y Moi project since the release of Causers of This has dabbled in a different era of pop nostalgia, and What For is not really different in that regard. On this LP, we get old school psychedelic pop and rock mixed with a bit of funk and disco. It's like an amalgamation of music that could have been released anywhere between 1966 and 1976. Not totally sure if we need Chaz reliving the past for us once again, but there are some redeeming qualities to this LP that are worth noting. For one, this album features some of Toro Y Moi's catchiest songs yet, as well as some of the project's most carefully and fantastically assembled instrumentals yet. Bass, guitars, drums, keyboards, vocals coming together to create some pretty groovy, funky, but also detailed and sweet pop instrumentals. In the past, the kind of shoddy instrumental limitations of Toro Y Moi held back some of Chaz's reanimations of synth funk and pop. Not so much the case on What For. For example, the song Empty Nesters, which has a jam in its runtime, or the track Run Baby Run, which kicks off like an honest-to-God tender ballad. Also, I think the vocals are a step up on this album. Chaz is not one of my favorite singers, but he seems to be mixing his vocals a little higher on this album, putting a bit more effort into his singing. The production on this LP is pretty good too. It's not a total nostalgia fest. While it does feel vintage, it does feel old school. Chaz is a homegrown producer, so his kind of quirky approach to mixing and recording shines through on these songs. Plus, Chaz's appreciation and love of modern indie rock and pop gives these tracks a modern punch too. For example, the song Yeah Right, which is the closing track here, which at its core feels kind of like a Weezer song, but it's enmeshed in this lazy, sun-baked 70s soft rock instrumentation. It's pretty sweet, and the orchestral instrumentation that finishes the song off was an incredibly nice touch. The record is 36 minutes. There's not really a whole lot of room for BS. Chaz has come out with records in the past that are about the same length. However, I have found them to be loaded with very unmemorable songs and filler. Not so much the case with What For. With this album, I just feel like I'm listening to an alternative pop songwriter hone his craft and, in a way, approach the danceable, sweet, and catchy eccentricity of people like Ariel Pink or Arthur Russell. And I think people who are into Hot Chip or even Chromeo would appreciate this album too. The opening track on here features some incredibly fat, warm, round drums and bass. They feel like they are compressed to the point where they are bleeding into one another, like I'm listening to this song on a really old cassette tape. And I like that tape sound on this song, but it does get excessively muddy at points. On the song Buffalo, a dance beat pops in. It's a quality disco tune with a lot of quirk and a very smooth bass line. The vocals feel a little limited at points, kind of strained again. Chaz is not really an amazing singer, but he does seem to be putting in more effort with putting the vocals up front, especially on the track Spell It Out. This to me was a great moment for the vocals on this record. He has all these multi-track bits of, I guess, spoken word or just kind of, I don't know, monotone singing or like chanting. It was just really ear-grabbing and kind of energetic and exciting. But even though the album continues to dish out some pretty good instrumentals, like on the song The Flight, it's kind of disheartening to hear the singing over these instrumentals just kind of stiff and lifeless. The instrumentals on these tracks, they feel so fluid and lush and poppy, but then Chaz over this song, he's just singing in such a... But I loved the appearance of piano on this track. Really gorgeous solo. Essentially, the album here just kind of swings back and forth between these psych pop tunes and these dance pop tunes with a disco flair. A weird mix of styles for one record, but Chaz's approach to production and his singing, even though it does have its low points, makes this record feel pretty cohesive. And despite the tracks that are more forgettable than others on this LP, the entire album is just similarly sweet and warm, kind of like a s'more. Now, personally, I've never really been that big of a sweets guy, but this record certainly puts me in the mood for sweets. I'm feeling a decent to strong 7 on this thing. Transition! If you've given this album a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, music forever.